want to show you how I make my favorite PCOS friendly matcha latte. I make these a lot and I talk about matcha a lot for PCOS, so I get a lot of questions on how exactly to make it and how to make it PCOS friendly. So I'm going to show you step by step exactly how I do it, and then along the way I'll share with you some of the benefits of matcha for PCOS in case you've never tried it before. First, you're going to need a matcha. Now, I recommend that you get a high quality matcha. This is the one that I usually use. It's a culinary grade, but it is certified organic in Japan and the United States. The next thing you're gonna need is some form of protein powder. So I lately have been making these a lot with my vanilla protein powder because I think it adds a little extra element of sweetness, which is nice when you're first getting used to drinking matcha. But I also recommend using collagen, and the process for incorporating that into the matcha latte is very similar. Now, this step is optional if you just want to make a latte and you don't want to have that extra protein, or maybe you're having it alongside your breakfast, then you don't necessarily need to include this. But if you want to use this as some sort of meal replacement, then you're going to need some sort of protein powder. And then you're also going to need a cup. I like these cups. These are my favorite. They're glass and I just think they're really fun to carry around, and they're better for your hormones. But I am going to use this one for today since I've already drank the matcha that I made in here. I don't necessarily recommend having 2 matchas a day, but this is for educational purposes, okay? You're going to need some sort of milk for the latte portion of this. Now, you could use regular milk, but if you don't tolerate dairy, I usually use an organic soy milk. You could also use any other kind of non-dairy milk. If you use something that's a little bit higher protein like soy, or a pea protein milk like Ripple, then you're gonna get those extra benefits of even more protein. The other thing you're gonna probably want is a nice matcha bowl and a bamboo whisk. Now, this is optional as well, but it does help to make the mixing a little bit easier. It helps to froth up the matcha better, and I find that it helps get the clumps out of the matcha better, especially when we're adding a protein powder. Plus, it kind of makes it like a little mindfulness activity that I think is fun. So I filled up my cup with ice. I'm gonna set this aside. I'm gonna take a couple ounces of hot water. You want it hot, but you don't want it boiling. And I'm gonna add that into my bowl. And I'm really just using as little as I possibly can to get the clumps out of the matcha and the protein. Then I like to take about a tablespoon of matcha. If you're just starting out, I recommend doing a little bit less than this, maybe about a teaspoon, because the flavor is very strong and it takes some time to get used to it. So I mix that right in with my water, and I'm doing my whisk in an M shape. That's one of the better ways to kind of get the clumps out and get a little bit of froth into this. The reason I use as little water as possible is because I don't want my matcha to be really watered down. I think it tastes better when I can taste more of the milk, and that makes it more enjoyable. Okay, so once I've whisked that, I'm gonna put this aside. Now I'm gonna get my protein. And for this, I'm just gonna use 1 scoop of my vanilla protein powder. This is the Be Well by Kelly vanilla protein. And then I'm going to whisk that in. And I will add more water if I have to. And while I do that, I'll tell you some of the benefits of matcha for PCOS. So matcha is a really, really good source of antioxidants. In fact, it's one of the best sources of antioxidants. It also has something in it called EGCG. And these are really helpful for PCOS because they help to reduce testosterone production and to kind of be protective against the negative consequences of having too many hormones in the system. So antioxidants in particular are really good at PCOS for cleaning up some of that oxidative stress and that inflammation damage that can happen with PCOS. Matcha also helps to reduce testosterone production, so it helps to reduce facial hair, hair loss. And I find that as a caffeine source, it's one of the best caffeine sources because the caffeine release is really slow and gentle, and then the come down off the caffeine is also really slow and gentle. So it's better for your adrenals. Matcha is also a really good source of L-theanine, which is a natural anti-anxiety. So while some people do get anxiety from caffeine, the natural benefits of matcha kind of help to modulate that effect. And I find that a lot of people find matcha very calming, myself included. I find matcha to be very anti-anxiety for me, but everyone is different there. The other thing that I find is that matcha is really beneficial for skin health. My skin has changed so much since I started drinking matcha regularly about 3 years ago. I always say, look back at old videos of me from early 2021 to today, and you'll notice that my skin is a lot brighter, it's a lot clearer. Even though I have aged 3 years, I feel like I look a little bit younger. But I'll let you be the judge of that. Okay, so don't skimp on this step, because the biggest complaint that I get from people when they make a matcha latte and they're adding collagen or they're adding protein powder is that it's too clumpy, and of course that grosses them out, which I totally get. I don't know if you can see, but that's what's gonna get all of that broken down really, really well by your whisk. So this is broken down pretty well. So I'm gonna put my whisk aside again. I already filled this cup up with ice. What I like to do is I like to fill up the cup with milk first and then put the matcha on top. So I always leave a little bit of room for the matcha in the cup, and I find that this helps the matcha to settle in a little bit better. Whereas if you put all the matcha at the bottom and then your milk on top, if you don't stir it really well, you might get a really big intake of just like pure matcha, which can be a little bit disconcerting if it's your first time drinking it, and can be a little hard to drink if you're not used to. Okay, so I'm gonna pour this milk, and I'm leaving a couple of inches at the top so that my matcha can fit. You probably can't see that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pour my matcha in on top. Okay. Now I have a little bit of space left at the top, so I like to add a little bit more milk just to kind of help it all settle in. And then I'm going to take my glass straw here and I'm going to mix it all together and get it all incorporated. And that's it. Very good, very sweet vanilla matcha latte. I want to show you what it looks. I don't know if you can see. I want to show you what it looks like here. See if it'll focus. So this is what it looks like when it's all done. It's very good, very satisfying. One thing people often don't know about matcha is that matcha is similar to coffee in that it is a bitter food. Think about things like wine and coffee, for example. Those are drinks that it takes a little while to build up a taste for them. At first, the taste kind of gross, and then with time, you start to really notice the subtle flavors and you start to really enjoy it. Matcha is just the same. So if you give it time and space and you continue to drink it, especially in an iced latte form, which helps to cut down some of that bitterness, then you'll start to really enjoy it. This is one of my favorite superfoods for PCOS, and I think that it really helps a lot with PCOS symptoms. So I hope you give it a try, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you liked this little tutorial. Have a good day.